Welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we are going to cover some Mezinger model kit. This Mezinger model kit happens to be the secret base set. This is a vintage set, so it's really actually kind of difficult to find one of these in the wild anymore. You can find them every now and then on eBay, but not that often. This is it actually closed up completely. Now, if you guys are not familiar with Mezinger, it's Shogun Warriors for those that are in the United States. This thing has an amazing amount of gimmicks, and it's almost a play set, more or less, than a model kit. Now, this actually had to be glued together and painted. Some things were actually molded in certain colors. I'll get more into that as I get further into the review. But I wanted to show you guys, this is what it looks like when it's actually closed up. This is not even opened up, and this is like everything condensed into its form where it can safely kind of sit on a shelf. This is one of those pieces that's really difficult to actually display, to be honest, because we don't have a huge display to be able to set this up. It's kind of doesn't really do it justice. But it does happen to have quite a few gimmicks, and let's go ahead and get into those. First things first with this thing, it like I said, is all glued together. Some of it had to be painted, some of it was not painted. So there are some bits and pieces that are actually molded in the correct color plastic. Some of it was not molded in that correct color plastic and actually had to be painted. And this is my paint work, so I did this several years back, so if you see some things that just don't quite look right, that's probably why, because at the time I was using what I had at the time. First things first though, this thing does, it's got this storage up here on the very top. And the very top here has, as you guys can see, it's got a set of wings. And in the middle here, it's very, very difficult to see because he's so tiny, is the shuttlecraft itself that plugs into Mezinger. It's got this peg here that comes off on the bottom, and this is there for a reason. It's there for two purposes. Give you a bit of a close-up of the shuttle itself. It's very cartoonish accurate, so it's very kind of simulated to look more like the cartoon, not really a real life type of thing. I do like it. I actually had to paint the cockpit in this. This is all molded in red plastic, so I did not actually have to do any of that. But yeah, it's got not a whole lot of detail on the bottom. It's primarily just for functionality. The top of the base itself actually has a hole here in the top where this will securely sit in. It won't actually fall out, but yeah, it just kind of sets in there. It doesn't actually completely plug in, but it does balance on there pretty well. The next piece, because I'm going to take some of the bits off of here as we go, because some of these parts will get in the way as I'm trying to open it up and show you, is the wing assembly here. This actually has a kind of a keyed system here, so it will actually sit down in a keyed recess piece here, which is actually molded, and this is all molded in the correct colors. This is molded in red, and then behind here is actually molded in yellow. Not this color yellow, this color yellow, because there are two different shades. This is more of an orange yellow, which goes more to Mezinger himself. This Mezinger is pretty much like the deluxe model, so it's got all the bells and whistles. It's really cool. Yeah, anybody out there who really got into Mezinger and Shogun warriors, it's really neat. As you can see, at the time, I probably should have shaved this hair off a little bit, but I didn't. But nothing here is broken. Everything is in really good condition. It's very cool. I do love this set. It's phenomenal. It's kind of nice that these are actually molded in the correct color too, so I didn't actually have to paint those. Some things I didn't actually have to paint, which is great. But when certain things needed paint, they needed paint. And if I didn't paint them, it wouldn't look right. Much like the tiny little shuttle here. Like if I wouldn't have painted the black striping with a little bit of the bluish cockpit, it really wouldn't have looked right. But anyway, let's get into the base itself. The base actually is very, very cool. First things first, this whole dome piece here actually opens up. And it's neat. It just kind of just opens. Doesn't require removal or anything. And then these actually will come out. And when this happens, I might have a couple pieces that might try to fall. But as you can see, they open all the way. I can't quite open it completely because of my filming area here. But it kind of gives you a bit of an idea. And then this piece here, just kind of move it up the way for a minute. And then you'll drop that ramp portion down. These also drop down. And they actually sit in these little recesses here on the bottom. There's a set of like staircases too. It's very cool. This base is really neat. It's got a lot of cool detail down here on the bottom. And it's just got like, you know, pretty much everything you'd ever want for a Mezinger base to have. This will actually fit other Shogun warriors of this style as well, just to kind of give you a bit of a look at what this thing is. This is it just opened up. This is not even completely put together yet. It's just, this is the collapsed mode. And it's just neat. And as you can see, it's got storage for your extensions here, which these extensions are going to go on top of this when this whole thing slides out. It's also got a set over here for the ladder and the spare I don't really want to call them fists, but they're weapon arms. It's very neat. Anyway, let's get into it. This slides forward, which is pretty cool. I do have a cardboard backing there that is trying to come forward with it. I'll fix it here in a second. But anyway, you can slide this thing pretty far out, actually. If you really wanted to slide it all the way forward, that's about as far as you'd really want to go with it. You don't really want to go too far. But it doesn't really necessarily need to slide out that far. I normally only slide it, well, not even past that point, because it's starting to slide and come off the rail. There we go. But yeah, it's got a set of rails there that you can slide back and forth. If you own this model kit, I would probably pretty much stop about where the staircases are in order to pull it out, as pretty much far as you ever really would need it. It's got this actual working crane, which will go 360 degrees. It's got an actual cranking mechanism, so this will lower and raise the actual hook. But the way it works, you actually have to pull out on it a little bit because it locks, which is really neat. This is like an unnecessary thing, but it literally will lock into position. So whenever you're using it, you have to kind of keep in mind that this actually has its own locking mechanism, so it can actually hold things and not actually fall. The crane itself is adjustable too. It's got a set of little teeth there, so you can move this down and it will successfully hold that position, and you can actually put some weight on it. So let's go ahead and take the ladder here off. And these are all held on by hooks that are actually glued onto the system itself. But if I wanted it to hold this, it can actually successfully hold the ladder. And it's pretty neat that it does this. The base is just amazing. This is such a cool little addition that they did, and I do like it a lot. I'm gonna set this back up there, and let's raise this back up to its highest position, and rotate it back. Now, this thing does have a loading dock. That's what this portion here is for. This is that way the pilot can load onto Mezinger himself. It's a whole, like, kind of like a silo almost, but is designed to be a loading dock, so you can actually play with this. I mean, this whole thing is meant to be kind of a play set as well. It's very neat that it has that. Another cool thing it does is you have these, and these successfully, if you want to move this out of the way, these will slide onto the top part here of the gantry. That way it gives it more height. And that's where this piece here comes in. This is a sliding crane. And this sliding crane mounts just like that. And this right here will actually go back and forth. It too has a locking mechanism to allow the hook to go up and down for it could actually hold items on it as well. Whatever you're going to put on there. I mean, you can use one of the weapon arms here if you wanted. And the weapon arms actually have a hole in them. So you can have him over here like he's getting ready to replace the fist with a beam weapon arm, which is cool. I do love that. That's one thing I like about this set is it's got options. Options are amazing for this, and it's got a lot of detail too. That's one real big thing I do love about this thing. Let's take this off and put it back over here. And what I love the fact that it's got storage for everything. That's one thing I can't emphasize enough of how awesome the storage is on this set. This set is really cool. Let's go ahead and push this crane up all the way. And if you notice, Mezinger's actually sitting on a couple little rolling tank mechanisms here, and these can actually be rubber band too. So I'm going to slide him a little bit forward here. This top part here, the gantry, needs to come off. But you can put this actually behind these if you wanted to. You don't necessarily have to put it in front. I always have it in front just because it's easier for me to take it apart and put it back together that way. Let's move Mezinger out of the way real quick so that you guys can see a little bit of the base itself without all that. Now this, normally I have double-sided sticky tape on. It kind of came loose. Let's see if I can fix that. Because I didn't want to glue it in. Because you never know. Somebody else might want to replace the back into it. But I mean, like I said, this being a vintage set is really neat. There we go. And as you can see, it's got a lot of detail on that backdrop. That backdrop's got a lot going on with it. It's got like a map of the world. It's got a bunch of faux cranes in the back. And all the computer craziness going on with the tape reels and such. It just looks really cool. But the base itself, very interesting and neat. It does have these, which are, these actually have rolling wheels, so they will roll, which is cool. And it's got these little nubs here sticking out where you, like I said, you can use like little rubber bands to hold it on or whatever in order to roll Mezinger in and out of his repair bay. It does have these little seats here with a control. They're basic, but they're very, very well detailed. I mean, the detail on those treads is very neat. I like how anime this thing looks. It works so well. And that isn't all the stuff that this thing does. It does happen to have removable ladders, which it's got 3 of these, which are sorry, 4 of these little ladders here, which can be put on any level you want, and they just hook on the railing. And then it's got a couple of these longer ones as well. So it's got a lot of cool little options you can do with the gantry itself and just decorating it the way you want. Inside the gantry, it happens to have some hoses. So it's got a set of hoses on just one side, and try to get a bit of a close-up of that. As you can see, the fuel barrels all kind of have their own pipes coming up. It does have a couple of these little flexible hoses, like I said, that are inside the gantry that you can use to fuel up Mezinger. It's only on the one side, it's not on, no, I take that back. There is another one on this other side. So it's got a set of 3 of these hoses. And it does have the fuel tanks behind the, was primarily the main elevator system. That's what this big blue piece is here. It does have a set of the hoses over here as well. Just one set, not 2. But it does happen to have a little fuel tanks under there as well. And the other thing this thing does, I'll take Mezinger's sword out here and put him back over here. This thing here is actually a turntable, and you can move this thing any direction you want. So if you need to work on the back of them, you can. This whole thing will turn 360 degrees, which is cool. I do love the fact that you can move Mezinger around, and he's pretty stable on there. He isn't going to fall over. If you don't want to keep him on these. These, like I said, are primarily just to transport him in and out of the repair bay itself. And I love the fact that, you know, you can kind of store them like this if you wanted. Everything here has kind of an optional storage system. If you didn't want to use these at all and you wanted these out of the way, you can hook them over here because they actually have holes in them. So you can just get those completely out of the way if you didn't want them in the way at all. And that's what else is really cool about this set, is the fact that it's all, you know, a very, very modular system that's easily manipulated and moved any way you want. It literally is a playset, and I love that about this. And the fact that, you know, you can move Mezinger kind of anywhere you want. Let's take a look at him and see all the gimmicks he does, because he's got a lot that he does as well. He's not just a stagnant robot. Let's try to move this base out of the way. But the original design of this had these compartments here on the side. And these compartments used to have little battery operated motors, and the motors would allow him to drive forward and backward. So this is the deluxe model, but it didn't actually have the motor gimmick built in. I do know that they have a motorized version of these. One cool thing that Mezinger does is you can take the shuttle that I showed you guys earlier. And by the way, this whole thing himself was not painted. He's all molded in blue plastic and then the red pieces. That's it. So you have to paint him. This portion here was all molded in black. This is all molded in blue. So the legs and the forearms and the head. You had to paint all this. All this silver, all of it had to be painted. And then this will actually sit down in his head, because it kind of finishes his head crest. But what else you can do is here on the back, you take that keyed portion here and you'll turn it upside down, kind of set it down in there, and then turn it all the way around, and there you go. You got the full Mezinger with his wings, which is really cool. I always love him having his wings, and it looks amazing. I think it looks cool. It's really, really, really neat. Another cool thing he has a tiny little sword. And this tiny little sword here is just pretty much just to represent that he has his sword in his hilt. But if you wanted to actually hold his sword, he does come with it successfully in his hand. And another thing these guys do, because you know, rocket punching is really a thing. That's one thing I love about this toy. This toy actually has spring-loaded hands. So you can, let's put it the proper way. But if you want him to, he can rocket punch pretty well. And when you rocket punch him, I'm like, okay, I'm done using that. So let's give him a mace. And that's what's awesome. He's got interchangeable hands. Love that about this toy. This toy is awesome because of that. I think I should have shaved this thing off a little bit because it's a little... mace doesn't want to fit here. But he does also come with his ray gun, which is neat. And like I said, this is a model kit, so it has its ability to change out anything you want. And these do fire off as well. Not as well because I actually haven't shaved them down enough, but that's okay. I don't necessarily use these that often. These are primarily for display. And then he also has his knife arm, which is cool. And I just think it looks really neat that he has the ability to do this. By the way, this happens with both hands. Both hands can come off. Both of them are spring-loaded too, which is really, really cool. Well, let's go ahead and put his other arm on, because he's got another gimmick that he does. That is, the chest piece comes off for his boomerang, and it actually will sit in his hand as well. So he can actually hold his boomerang. Now, like I said, this being a model kit, this arm here is a little loose. If you guys happen to be one of those people that goes through and like, okay, I want that to be tighter or whatever, you would have to tighten it before you put the body together, because the body is actually glued together on this guy. But he does have two little pegs there while actually successfully hold his boomerang on there. And that is one of the coolest things about this set, is the fact that it actually has a full working Mezinger that does pretty much every gimmick you're ever going to want Mezinger to do. He does happen to have a tiny little small well over here. That is for the tiny sword, if you wanted to just store the tiny sword there and not actually use it there. And he does happen to have pockets on both sides of his legs here, where you can actually take the hoses when you're doing any kind of refueling or repairing. You can plug those directly into this. You can plug it into his arm. It's pretty much your imagination at this point when it comes to how you want to display or play with this set. Like I said, this entire set had to be built. This is not a set you can buy assembled. If you find them assembled, I'm not really sure how well it would transport, considering the fragility of the nature of the whole toy itself. I myself love this thing. I think it's amazing. It's a very, very, very awesome representation of Mezinger, especially when you get him here and you set him in his base, and it just looks amazing with him sitting in his base. Even if you keep the wings on, you can set him here with his wings on. Now, it's harder to move him around with the wings on, considering the gantry's in the way. But that's fine. I mean, if you're just using it for display purposes. Now this piece here is attached. These do not come off. So if you're going to have this thing displayed on a shelf, you're going to have a pretty deep shelf in order to display this properly with this in this direction. Now, if you really wanted to, you can slide the whole mechanism out and completely turn it around 360 degrees and then slide it back in, and then this piece here will be up against the back of the wall if you were just wanting to display Mezinger by himself. Now everything here is optional when you do build this set. If you don't want the two huge doors that open and you just want just this part of the base, you can do that, but keep in mind everything is glued together. So I mean, you can see where some of the glue has, you know, it's translucent plastic, so it's really difficult to there's certain glues out there that work better than others. I just used my regular tester's glue I had laying around when I did build this guy. But I think this thing is absolutely amazing. It's probably one of the coolest Mezinger sets I've ever seen. And I do know that there's a large, I think it's Soul Shogun set that they have where it's just the whole set in it completely comes apart, does a bunch of crazy stuff, but that thing is enormous compared to this. This set is smaller, but if you do get into the vintage style of the Mezinger sets, this will fit Radine, this will fit Vanguard. It'll fit all those smaller styled, even your Getter Robo will actually fit in this gantry. This gantry is probably a really good starter kit, and the thing is, this all comes together when you buy this set. It comes with the Mezinger. Now this Mezinger itself, I've seen sold by itself as an individual kit. It does not come with the additional arms, though. It only comes with his two fists, pretty much the Mezinger you're looking at, and it even does come with the wings and the shuttle. So it's cool to have all those bits and pieces, but if you're wanting the full experience, this is the best way to get it as far as I'm concerned, especially when it comes to those people out there that really want an entire Mezinger set that they can display and be very proud of, especially if you're going to use this as a centerpiece on a shelf. I think it's absolutely amazing. It's probably one of the coolest sets that has ever been released, especially when it comes to vintage model kits. The artwork that the box comes with is absolutely stunning. I love the artwork, and it's just a very neat set in general. If you really are into building model kits, this is pretty much one of those sets you're really going to want. If you're looking for something that snaps together, this is not for you. You're going to have to glue some pieces, you're going to have to paint some pieces. But if you're really meticulous and you love doing that kind of thing, much like I do, this is pretty much up your alley. But I did want to show you guys this. It's been a long time coming for this kind of a review. Been a while since I could get around and pull this thing off my shelf and actually do a proper show of this thing, because I had to have plenty of room to be able to show you guys this. This thing is not a small kit, and it really is probably one of the centerpieces of my collection, just because I love the fact that it's an entire base. And if you have the Voltrons like I got, like the smaller style Voltrons, they look great in this thing as well. If you have an Optimus Prime, you can put an Optimus Prime in this thing. This thing is actually very neat for anybody that is into any kind of machine robo. If you're really into, like, you know, Gundam, this is pretty cool. I would really think this would go very well to get maybe like one of the older RX 78s to stand, you know, put in the center of this thing. If it's one of the older kits, the more chunkier kits, the kits that are not as accurate but they look kind of anime-ish or kind of just fun, like a toy almost. And that's one big reason why I absolutely love this set, is the fact that this thing is a playset in itself, not to mention a great display piece, a great way to present any type of robot you want on a shelf. It is just absolutely amazing. And the fact that you can close it all up and it keeps everything protected inside of it, which is really nice. Sadly, there's no real place for the gantry railing here. It has to kind of just set in the front, but it's literally the only piece that floats that's on this entire thing. If you wanted to, you can probably lay it in the back and just have it lay in the very back of the whole thing when it's slid closed. Sometimes I do that, but you will always have these ramps and smaller rail pieces that will be folded up. Now, when I built this set, these are optional. You don't have to have these, but it kind of looks weird without them. I'm just going to say that. If you're one of those people that just want to build just the kits, that way you have a thing to put all your robots on and not even worry about the backdrop pieces at all, you can just use the base and just the white piece here and just this part alone. But this set is very, very cool, and I really think it's highly, highly underrated if you guys are into kits. If you're not into kits but you like background pieces, this is amazing to be able to use just for background pieces alone for any type of robot style or even kaiju, anything like that you want to get into. You can really use this for quite a few different things. But as far as I'm concerned, this is pretty much peak design for just a build to show you guys of what you can do with these kind of toys. It being a model kit, yes, it is more fragile, but it's not so fragile you feel like it's going to break or fall apart. You saw these things here hold, you know, they can hold quite a bit of weight. I wouldn't put too much. This did come with the brownish string, so you do not have to buy string. It does come with that. And you do have to cut it to the certain length or whatever. But this thing here comes down to about here. And this crane will actually reach the entire floor. So you do have ability to be able to like set these hooks at any level you want. They can hang on to stuff any direction you want. And I mean, if you don't want Mezinger here to even hold his sword, his large sword will actually sit in there as well. So that right there is designed for two different things. It's designed for the small one or the large one. So if you just want that sword up out of the way, you can just do that. Bam, it's out of the way. Now if you're going to put Mezinger back in there, you do have to take the wings off. The shuttle is optional. You can leave it in there or take it out. I primarily keep it on the inside because I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. But that's just me. I'm really picky about how I store stuff. But like I said, this thing is absolutely amazing. I cannot emphasize how awesome this piece really is. So I know I've rambled on here for a while gushing about how cool this thing is, but hey, you guys check it out, and I will see you guys around because I have plenty more coming your way. This has been Plasticon, and this is me signing off. Peace out, y'all, and I'll see you around. That's it for now. Bye.